This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of DocNJock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Looking forward to this conversation with Adam, the Jock Strozinski. The Detroit Lions had their litmus test. You had your final exam. You had an opportunity to showcase to the world what you were about. Unfortunately, you went into the game all beaten and battered up. It did probably change people's realistic expectations, but I can make an argument to my guy, Adam Strozinski, that the Lions still could have won that game had Dan Campbell just modified a couple things. I'm curious what Adam thought of that game, what he thought about Jameson Williams humping the uprights. I mean, I think Adam and I are in the same boat. I'm curious to see what the fallout is going to be from this game. Do the Detroit Lions rebound after really a tough loss? Aiden Hutchinson called it a must-win. Prime time, it had playoff ramifications, seeding ramifications, and you fell short. Second half of the podcast, we got to talk about it. Pistons are winning. Guys that are out are really noticing that the depth has picked up. Unsung heroes are starting to emerge with this Pistons team. They are likable, they are watchable, and they are a group that deserves a lot of attention. But because it's straightforward, you had a test against the Eagles. You went there, a cold, rainy, dank. It just ended up being a windy kind of day. And in the end, you fell short. And what happened was you were so aggressive on fourth down that you recognized that maybe a lack of respect for the Eagles' defense, no willingness to adapt, even though the situations that Dan Campbell said would have been in the Lions' favor. I felt like Dan Campbell wasn't willing to understand that Eagles' defense that day was better than you. And then to go on the radio to say that you got the look that you wanted, where your special teams unit is going up against a starting defensive line? What? What are you talking about? Yeah, Jordan Davis against your special teams unit and a backup tight end. That's the look you wanted? I mean, sometimes you just have to admit that was a botch. And I think in that contest, it goes to show you that, yes, Dan Campbell is an offensive wizard. He is somebody that should be calling plays. But when you go up against the big dogs, everything's got to be perfect. You can't have your star wide receiver not having his best game. Your star quarterback not able to handle the pressure. What, you'd expect that? You didn't expect that the defensive line was not going to bring some pressure? You didn't have the right answers. You didn't bring the proper knowledge to that game to win the game. And I asked Dan Campbell on Monday, listen, when you're 0 for 2, 0 for 3, did you consider adapting? No. Based on the situations that at hand, he didn't feel comfortable kicking, didn't feel comfortable punting, and it ended up being a mistake. It's not hindsight. It is, a situation in which third and fourth down is not good enough to be Super Bowl caliber. It was a bad loss, 16-9, in a game you could have won. You could have won that contest. And also, to boot, and I know you have a thought about it, the officials at the end of the game botched an opportunity to at least give the Lions a chance to tie that game. An unequivocal disaster for the Detroit Lions. I'm curious, what was your thought about that game? How did you watch that game? Because I watched it with my nephew. I was typing, and he was going through it because he was like, I'm getting a new team. I can't believe this. Why is Dan Campbell keep going for it? What? What's going on? And he didn't see the last even botched call on Rocky Sin. He fell asleep. And it was just unfortunate because when you step to the big dog and you don't succeed, you feel like, man, it's not likely that the Lions are going to be the number one seed in the NFC. It's going to be the road dogs, the road warriors in the playoffs this year, if they make it.
Look, the Lions put themselves in a bit of a hole here, and they've got work to do the back half of the season. But I watched this game just like everybody else, upset on my couch with my wife, screaming at the TV, pulling my hair out, what little bit of it I have left, and just really questioning a lot of what I saw. And I want to go here. I want to go to the very end of this game where you did have the botched call by the officials. I want to do a little public service announcement for all the Detroit Lion fans out there. You do not get to point to that moment and say that that cost you that game, because that did not cost you that game. The play that preceded that moment for the entirety of that game is what cost you that game. The coaching malpractice that Dan Campbell put you under because of his play calls and his over aggressiveness is what cost you that game. Jared Goff not being able to throw a football, and Jared Goff having happy feet, and Jared Goff seeing ghosts is what cost you that game. Your offensive line's inability to block the man in front of them is what cost you that game. You do not have the honor, the privilege, or the ability to point to that one blown call and say that that cost you that game. It was everything else that cost you that game. You showed up, but you did not show up. You did not get on that airplane, and you did not go to Philly, and you did not play a good football game. Your Detroit Lions blew that game. Your Detroit Lions coaching staff blew that game. Your Detroit Lions offensive line blew that game. Your Detroit Lions quarterback cost you that game. That play did not cost you that game. Which then leads me to this. We've got a lot to unpack here. There is a ton for us to get to. All right. But you don't get to say that the refs cost you this game, because when you really break it down and you go back and you watch this game and you rewatch this game, let's start with Dan Campbell. I love Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell's a fantastic football coach. I think Dan Campbell is going to be a guy who's going to bring this team to the promised land. Just not this day. Dan Campbell showed me a lot of the flaws that we've seen with this team in prior experiments. Watching this game, I was reminded very much of the Dallas Cowboy game, where he continued to go for two when basically the refs were like, just kick the extra point, live to fight another day. But he was so hell-bent on trying to rub it in and get those 2 points. He ended up costing the team a victory that day. I'm reminded of early Dan Campbell constantly going for fourth down in your own territory, even when it just wasn't the right time or the right play or the right call. You've seen it a lot in this game. Dan Campbell, it felt like he got put behind the eight ball, and he started trying to make up a ton of ground all of a sudden by going for it all the time on fourth down. And it's like, bro, just punt or just kick the field goal. I feel like if Dan Campbell would have just attempted or took field goals, this team would be in a different position. Your defense was playing out of its mind. Your defense played a hell of a game. I think we have to at some point have the conversation about the identity of this team switching from being a offensive juggernaut to being a defensive stalwart, because the defense kept you in this game. And if you could have just picked up some points and lived to fight another down, you would have been in a much better spot, instead of putting your defense in bad spots where they had to play with short fields, backed up against goal lines. And look, they came up big for you. They came up huge, giving up only a couple of field goals. You couldn't ask them to do any more. And Dan Campbell put them in bad spots time and time again. And if he would have just took the field goals, you would have been in a much better spot. Not to even talk about that silly little punt. The fake punt where was it Stewart just got blown up. Like, the coaching malpractice in this game was unreal from Dan Campbell.
Wait, listen to this. Dan was asked about it on the radio. Look what he said.
I know.
Not even willing to acknowledge we wanted that, and we felt like there was enough consistent looks.
The double down, yeah, man.
To where we were going to be able to get that. Your starting special teams unit is not as good as the Eagles defense, bro. They left their defense. You wanted
bro,
that. That
your
makes no
starting
sense.
offensive unit wasn't as good as the Eagles defense. Like, what are you thinking? Like, I get it. The double down for it was just unreal, man. He put this team in such a bad spot. And like I said, this is going to be something that's going to have to get worked out, because I really feel like him absorbing the play calling role kind of takes him out of the flow of the game and takes him out of being able to make those major calls. You're going to have to get somebody else to help and take some of that responsibility. You're going to have to do some readjusting, because what I seen in this game, it was not good enough. It absolutely was not good enough, which then leads me to the O-line. Why are you going for it all the time on fourth down when your O-line is just getting bullied? When you've got guys getting into your quarterback space, you've got guys blowing up Jahmyr Gibbs, blowing up David Montgomery, but behind the line of scrimmage, What are you doing? Your offensive line, just not good enough. Just not good enough, and hasn't been good enough for a long time. It looked like Tate Ratledge was basically on ice. He was just backpedaling and spinning around in circles. And you want to talk about Graham Glasgow, he had an awful game as well, but when the guys on either one of his sides are essentially turnstiles to your quarterback, there's not a whole lot you can do. So the offensive line needs to get figured out. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Brad Holmes' responsibility is with this offensive line right now, because it is literally costing this team games because they can't stand upright and put up a wall for Jared Goff, which leads me to this. At some point, Jared Goff has to just be better. Like, you just have to be better. You have to make a play. You make too much goddamn money to sit there and throw footballs into defensive linemen's hands. He looked so bewildered, so uncomfortable. He looked shell-shocked out there. You make way too much money, and you are talked about way too highly to go out there and put up that performance. I seen Sam Darnold do better than you. Be better, Jared Goff. Be better. I don't know if you got to take the gloves off, which I think way too much was made about that. You need to be better. This guy was on roller skates, and he was getting knocked all around. At some point, man, you're going to take a hit. Step up in the pocket, deliver a pass in crunch time, help your guys. He looked like he was screaming to his defensive line, and he looked like he was screaming to his wide receivers, help me, I'm poor. I need somebody to help and carry me. Jared Goff, you make way too much money. You are the captain of that offense. Be better. Be better. This game, to me, came down to Dan Campbell and his inability to get out of his own way and his over-aggression on fourth down. And again, not being able to pick stuff up on third downs, coming back to bite them in the ass. The offensive line not being able to push defenders away, not being able to open up holes for the run game, not being able to protect Jared Goff, and down to Jared Goff. Just not being a gamer, not being able to step up in the biggest moment. This has been the biggest critique of this guy. The biggest criticism of him is when it comes to a big spot, he just doesn't have the ability to rise to the occasion. This was a big game. This team talked about this being a big game. They talked about this being a litmus test. You failed this litmus test. You failed again. Jared Goff, you failed again in a big spot. This comes down to Dan Campbell, the offensive line, and Jared Goff not being able to get the job done because that defense went out there and gave you everything they had. Now, the offensive line is a big issue, and the offensive line does impact Jared Goff. I think Brad Holmes has to take some responsibility for the current situation and the current status of this offensive line. How much is Brad Holmes to blame for what we're seeing with this offensive line right now?
Yeah, it's tough because there are injuries. So Christian Mahogany had a nice start to the year. They've addressed it. Miles Frazier had an injury. It's tough to say because they expected those guys to develop, and unfortunately, Miles Frazier is just now getting into the flow of things. So it's been addressed. Manu was a project. I don't think it's going as well as they thought. I don't think that they would have thought that it would have taken well into year 2. He got hurt. So it's just unfortunate because the stuff that, in essence, you tried to do at certain spots hasn't worked. And it's unfortunate because everyone knows it now that the offensive line is not championship caliber. And I do think, seriously, I've said it multiple times, that Brad Holmes knows it. Like, do you think Brad Holmes, as a smart offensive mind and a smart general manager and somebody that knows football, thought that the Lions were going to win a Super Bowl with a first-year offensive coordinator, 2 young guards, and a retired center? Come on. I think that he would have made more of an aggressive push. He's not soft as a general manager. Okay. You don't learn from somebody for all those years and then realize it. I just think that you can't publicly say, listen, it's a tough situation that we're really pinpointing. I think if you gave him bourbon, he came in here and he said, listen, Brad, no PR training, just answer the question and be real. He would say, look, this is not the year. We're targeting 2026.
For sure. But look, he can't wave the white flag.
Moves to the degree that they felt were comfortable, but they didn't expect the nastiness.
What does that look like? What does that look
them.
like, though? You said they look comfortable. What does that look like? What is that? Because if you have an inkling, and we've had an inkling We're just two dudes, right? You cover the team regularly.
Yep.
I'm a guy at this point who doesn't cover the team regularly, but I sit back and I watch and I read and I'm in tune with what's going on. We both knew that at some point your center was going to be retiring.
Yeah.
He had kicked around the idea for 2-3 years. I talked about it last year. Taylor Decker does not look good. He's not been good.
Yeah.
It's been about 18 games where he has not been the same guy that you extended. He's not been the same guy that you've given money to. And we've talked about what's going on with your center position because Frank Ragnow was possibly going to retire. You have guys now playing out of position, and they don't look good. Graham Glasgow was a guy who was primarily supposed to play right tackle. That was supposed to be his position. He played out of position last year for you, and he wasn't any good. You're going to play him out of position now, and guess what? He isn't any good. Why didn't they make a bigger move in free agency to go get somebody to help shore up this offensive line? Instead, you bring in these young guys, and you're like, cool, we're going to dump all this on you. Graham, you're going to move to center. You're going to play out of position again. Hey, Taylor Decker, we're going to hang another year on you, and you've looked like shit for the last little bit. So, hey, hopefully that turns around. The only guy you got out there is Penei Sewell. And guess what? He's banged up. And if you've caught some of his body language over the last couple of weeks, he looks pretty fed up with what's going on.
Yeah.
Brad Holmes was completely negligent in the addressing the offensive line and what this means. Brad Holmes came into a pretty decent offensive line. When he got here, the offensive line was pretty good. There was a lot of talk about it being a top 10 offensive line in the league. He's done little to nothing to really adjust that. He added Penei Sewell, which you don't get credit for because that guy was supposed to be a number 1 or number 2 pick that fell to you at number 5. And you were trying to get a wide receiver who went and spit on a dude and then got choked out by Jalen Ramsey and looked like a little bitch. So you don't get credit for Penei Sewell. I can't say that you did a great job there because you don't get credit for that. You've done nothing to fix this offensive line. You came into it with a stalwart at Frank Ragnow, and you came into it with a guy who was playing really, really well in Taylor Decker. All you did was add a guy who fell into your lap, and then you tried to sprinkle in pieces around it. You've done nothing to fix that offensive line since you've been here, and now it is hamstringing your offense. This offense looks awful because your offensive line is dog shit. That's on Brad Holmes.
Okay. Now, to your point,
I just screamed at you. I'm sorry.
I think you're conflating. No, you're conflating not doing anything with not doing the right thing. I think that they felt like, because that's what they did, they felt like Tate Ratledge would have been the center, Miles Frazier would have been the guard, and you would have rolled with an interior of young offensive linemen. And maybe it's not the right call. I agree. They did go out and get Tristan Colon. Now, it's a role player. You're absolutely right. What your point is, which is exactly accurate and 100% true, that with the Super Bowl window, you needed more proven talent. But again, the Lions are not aggressive externally to the point that they're willing to give up dollars beyond a certain amount. Because guess what? You had to give Aiden Hutchinson $180 million. You had to give him a lot of money. And you had to give Jameson Williams a lot of money. So they felt like, I feel like incorrectly, clearly, because they moved off of that quick, that maybe you would have, okay, if you would have Tate Ratledge at center, you have flexibility to move Graham Glasgow at left or right guard. That didn't work out. They're like, now we got to put Graham at center, which is a major botch. Tate Ratledge not playing center this year, not getting it quickly, having the issues that he had, it got yanked out in 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks like, oh no, it was bad. We were reporting, oh boy, they're getting blown up. He couldn't handle it. Now, they maybe felt like, okay, it's not going to be that bad. You have Mahogany. And remember, the offensive line was okay. It hasn't been bad, but again, it wasn't great with the starters against the elite talent on the road. So you're absolutely right in that they've tried, but what they've done is they've taken too many projects. They got unlucky with the injuries to Mahogany and Miles Frazier, and this is what you get. You get too much trust in Coyote Awosika. He had a bad game, and Tate Ratledge is a rookie who is absolutely going through it, where some good moments, some bad moments, which they expected. So you're absolutely right. Where all this stems from, where the whole engine collapses, where Jock, Doc, my nephew, everybody gets mad. Everybody gets mad watching the Lions. It collapses everything where Dan's trying to be Dan Campbell, but the offensive line can't deliver. You handcuff Jared Goff. You make the run game look bad. The offensive line got John Morton fired, basically. So in the end, there's a person that is good, but maybe challenged with the degree of turnover, and that means I think that maybe gotta put Vito on the case for a column. Hank Fraley's got to step up. That he's the run game coordinator now. He's got to make it happen with what he's got, and sometimes you do have to turn chicken shit into chicken salad and rough out those edges. I do think that the expectations for the offensive line right now are too high, but they got to do better than what they did, bro. They when they play bad, they collapse everything, and they got to do a lot better to figure out schemes to, hey, it's no secret that the Eagles have a massive defensive line that don't need to blitz. So you made it.
How good did Jalen Phillips look
a
in this
completely
game?
different game plan
and back-to-back
to address
weeks,
it.
Jalen Phillips looks like an absolute stud. That's a guy you possibly could have used. Instead, you traded a bunch of third-round picks for a guy who can't even get on the field. And look, I know that we're talking apples and oranges here. We're talking offenses and defenses. But I'm just showing you, like, what Brad Holmes is. Everybody wants to sit there and gloss up and lick the sweat off of Brad Holmes' nutsack. Brad Holmes has put this team in a bad spot. Like, he really has. You need to look at what he's done. He's put this team in a bad spot. Those third-round picks you could have utilized to go out there and possibly get other pieces to help this team, and instead you did nothing at the trade deadline. You did nothing during free agency to really help address and shore up this offensive line, and now you're in a spot. You're in a really bad spot, which has us asking this question. Is this team still a Super Bowl contender? Is this still a legit Super Bowl contender? And I would argue to you, it's not. When you look at what they've done against top defenses, they've come up with L's. They lost to the Chiefs. They've lost to the Vikings. They've lost to the Packers. Those are all really, really good defense. The Eagles are a top 20 defense. They're not even all that great, and they made you look pathetic. They made you look awful. And I don't want to hear about the conditions. You're supposed to have a run game that is supposed to help balance out your quarterback, who the writing on the wall, the writing in the book about Jared Goff is that he can't play well in bad weather and cold weather games. I believe that to be false. I think he played a shit game this game. I didn't think he looked any good, but I don't think that's an accurate assessment of him, because we've seen him go into Green Bay and we've seen him turn it up and we've seen him dial it up before. I think he played a really bad game here. But the thing is, in order for him to be successful, your run game has to be able to be established and go. And you haven't been able to do that in the games that you've lost. You haven't been able to do that against top 10 defenses, and in this case, a top 20 defense. And again, that goes back to Brad Holmes not addressing and not fixing this offensive line. I can't make the argument with what I'm seeing with this offense. Look, I get that the stats are what the stats are, and they're a top 5 offense. I understand that. It's really easy to do that when you play the school for the blind and the deaf, and you hang 55 points on them. I get it, okay? So it inflates your stats, but this team, when it goes up against quality adversaries, they do not show up. They do not look good. And if you're going to tell me, hey, they have a good chance of being an 11-6 team, a 12-5 team, they have a really good chance of at worst being 10-7. Great. But what happens when they played the good teams? They lost those games. So what are they? What are they when everything gets pared down? And if they're lucky enough to get into the playoffs, because they're not in the playoffs right now, when everything gets pared down and you're playing the best of the best, what does that look like for this team? Because I can't tell you that this team makes it to a Super Bowl. And remember, this team's goals were Super Bowl or bust. Your head coach said it. Your general manager said it. Your players said it. It was Super Bowl or bust this year. And right now, you're outside of the playoffs, looking in. And if you do get into the playoffs, I can't help you. There is zero defense to sit there and say, hey, this team's got what it takes to win a Super Bowl, because I think you're going to get to the playoffs, and I think you'll get jail sexed, and I think there's a better shot of you being a first round out than you moving on and advancing to that second round. Is this team still a legit Super Bowl contender in your mind? Because I say no.
No, you can't watch the Eagles game and say that. It's clear. It's one of those things where smart defensive minds have figured it out. Don't overcommit to sack Jared Goff. Just move him off his spot. Just make him a little uncomfortable. Make him hear the pitter-patter of your feet. And guess what happens? Balls go left, balls go right, balls go twisted. He starts throwing it sidearm, and he can't even connect with his star wide receiver. That's what's going to happen to you if they do make a run. That's exactly what's going to happen to you in the Super Bowl. You're going to get there, and the team that plays you is going to have a simple plan. Make Jared Goff a little uncomfortable, and the ball is going to be sprayed all over the place. And look, it's going to be tough because, seriously, if you don't get the answer solved quickly, some of these games are not wins anymore. Like, you may end up, and I had a little banter with a sports radio host, that Bears game might be on the road for your life in the playoffs. You may go 4-3 the next handful of games. You may win these next 3 games, but it's no guarantee you beat the Packers on Thanksgiving, the Rams, the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott. He's been a saving grace for me in fantasy. And now they have added motivation to play well for their fallen teammate. So you got opportunities here to correct the ship, and there's no guarantee you go on Christmas Day to beat the Vikings. So you may be in a world of hurt where you get right against the Giants pretty clearly, but the rest of the way you play the Cowboys, Rams, all your division. It's going to be a dogfight the rest of the year. It all stems from that offensive line. No, they're not Super Bowl caliber. It's not an offensive. I mean, look, there's a stat. It's clear. Their third down efficiency. No team in decades has made the NFC Championship game with a third down efficiency in the lower third of the league. You can't extend drives. You are, and Dan Campbell has been, saying it's easily correctable. We can fix it. Well, it hasn't been fixed. So
freaking fix it if it's so easy. Then.
And it's tough because you have been solved. It's like, the league figured out how to play Dan Campbell's offense, and the step back that you had without Ben Johnson, he was a big loss. And Dan Campbell calling plays is fine, but it also takes away from his ability to manage games and to be the CEO. He's got a job to do. So this is not the best. And when you have a game, simply put, because you know that against the Eagles, you got to bring everything that you got. It's got to go flawless. And this is what you bring to the table. Your tight end gets hurt with a back injury. You have an injury list that's as long as a freaking Declaration of Independence. And you're like, okay, no Terrion Arnold, no DJ Reed, no Marcus Davenport, no Kirby Joseph, who's had a lingering knee issue for a month. Big problems. So you show up wounded, number one. Whoa, what do you know? Big game alert, Lions are wounded. Well, that's a concern. Dan Campbell runs these rugged practices, and your star tight end, who's blocked for the whole year, is now out. And you're playing football, but don't tell me that he didn't get wore out trying to block Al-Quadin Muhammad and those defensive ends. Yeah, okay. It contributed. To what degree? It's here nor there. It's an issue. And your offense is backwards, and then you got to play a clean game. You think that a fake punt running into their number one defense is the right thing to do. And listen, football players don't keep secrets. The Eagles said, we knew how we were going to bat the ball down. We just knew it. We had a secret. We were tipped off. So now you've been figured out where you're giving away clues based on your formations. They know something. The league knows something. It's not a secret anymore. The Eagles figured it out based on what the Vikings were able to do, based on what the Chiefs were able to do. I mean, everyone does a podcast, and Travis Kelce is like, yeah, let me just tell you, we kind of knew when it was going to be a runner pass play. We could tell by the formation, and we kind of knew what was coming. And everybody figured it out. You're giving away tells. They know what's coming. And they knew all the players. I mean, it's fun to say after the fact to what degree it's honest. But the Eagles told the Lions, we knew you were running a fake. It was a tell. You're giving it all away. There's no secret sauce anymore. So guess what? It's one of those age-old games. We know that they know that we know that they know that we know kind of thing. And right now, they know more. The league knows more about the Lions than the Lions are adapting due to talent, injuries, poor execution. And unfortunately, because this is the challenge of being a good team. Vic Fangio outworked the Lions, outworked Hank Fraley, outworked everything. And then the one thing that pissed me off, clearly I know you're bothered by J-Mo doing that. Listen, it's immature. I love the fact that on the heels of the week where the Lions paraded Jameson Williams on NFL Network. Geez, guys. Listen, the fan in Detroit's smart. We don't need you to be told that he's mature in every interview that he does. It's pretty clear you sent the message to your people, hey, talk about his maturity. We know. We got the message, Dan Miller. So, you're so mature. You never did anything when you were not... they just erase facts. You never did anything to show that you were upset when you didn't get targeted. Yeah, he did. He just didn't admit it. Yeah, it's Instagram where I'm sad. What are you sad? You're not getting your girlfriend messaging you? Did you get your chicken nugget order wrong? Why are you sad at 6 a.m. after a football game? You did something. You were sad. And you got asked about it by me. So you did something. So don't whitewash or lie when we all know you were sad because it was something related to the game you love. And it should be. You should be mad if you're not getting targeted. So, he's mature. He's mature. Well, why is a grown man humping upright? It's a terrible. The live video is bad, but the still photo is infuriating. That's a grown man with his legs wrapped around an upright. You're 24, 25 years old. Come on, man. That's not the look. And it's a clear penalty. It's the only one of the clear other than, hey, don't be humping the ground and don't excessively pump. There's only a handful of things you can't do, and don't make threatening gestures. Dance with your teammates. Maybe even do the Barry Sanders. Just celebrate a touchdown. And, hey, try to get the second one. Because what J-Mo is right now is he's a first down, spin the football, score one touchdown guy, and look at me. Like, stop, bro. Thanks with the apology to your teammates, but you cost the team a point.
Bro, you cost the team points, yeah.
I don't need my star wide receiver with his legs around the uprights, bro. That was crazy.
Dude, I'm so tired of the J-Mo experience. This is a guy who has all the skill in the world, and he's got a dime store brain. Like, he just does dumb shit after dumb shit after dumb shit. Like, points are at a premium. This is the big issue I had with Dan Campbell. You're going into this game. It's a playoff-like game. Points are going to be at a premium. Okay? So you take the points when you can get the points, and you don't cost your team points. Dan Campbell didn't take the points when the points were there, and J-Mo cost his team points. You can't do that stuff. That's immaturity. It's you not having an understanding of where you're at and what the situation actually is. And it's not just this instance. There have been multiple instances where he's just showing that he just doesn't get it. And then the organization's at fault too, because you say, it's okay, we'll look past that. Here, Brad Holmes again. We'll cut you a check for $83 million and we'll sign you forever and a day. After we go out and we trade a bunch of third-round picks to move up to get Tesla, who everybody thought was going to be a replacement. But I digress. To me, man, he is incredibly talented, but he is a walking liability, whether he is on the football field or whether he is in the streets of Detroit. You need to get your head screwed on straight. I don't know what it's going to take. You know, this past weekend, there was a New York Jet who was out at 2 a.m., which I don't know why the hell you're doing that when you got a football game on Sunday, out at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, and he got shot, and he's in critical condition. And you got to hear the Jets come out and say, hey, yeah, we're aware of the situation. That's all we got to say about it right now. And then you got to have players sitting there begging for prayers for the guy. Here's an idea. You got a football game the next day. Don't put yourself in these situations. Don't be dumb. I feel like Jameson Williams does similar stuff where he might not be putting himself in a spot where he's going to get shot or he is getting shot. He may at some point, I don't know, but he is always putting himself in some stupid situation where we got to come back and we got to have this conversation. We got to have this talk. And then we got to sit there and, like you said, we got to hear the Detroit Lions media sit there and gloss them up real nice. Oh my God, you're still mature. You're still mature. When you were getting the ball, you didn't sit there and throw a fit and you weren't being a little diva. Are you stupid? Do you not follow his social media? The guy was sitting there basically pouting. He was speaking in hieroglyphics. He was putting up stupid ass emojis. Like, what are we doing here, people? Be better. Be better. Media, be better. Do your job better. Don't be stupid. Don't act like we're all idiots and ignorant. Be better. On top of that, J-Mo, be better. Don't be an ass. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Have some goddamn common sense. I'm just tired. I'm tired of the experience, man. I'm tired of the J-Mo experience. Like, if this was a ride at Cedar Point, I would want to get off, and then I would want to surround it with gasoline. I just want to set it on fire and watch it burn. I'm so tired of the experience. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze with this guy. And I think him costing $80-some million, I think was just a gigantic waste of money. Yes, the guy is incredibly fast. Yes, he can do some very prolific things, but he is a walking liability. And at some point, he's going to cost you. And like I said, I just don't think it's worth it. I just don't think it's freaking worth it. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the experience. I'm over it. Literally, I'm so frustrated with this team. I'm so frustrated with this general manager. I'm so frustrated with the front office. I'm frustrated because they all think they're the smartest guys in the room. And I'm not saying you and I are the smartest guys in the room. But what I'm saying is we know what our eyes are telling us. We know what we're watching. And they were the guys who came out and said, Super Bowl or bust. This team is nowhere close to even being in that realm. You've seen what that looks like. You went to Philly. You played Philly. Philly bullied you all over the place. They body bagged your ass. That game wasn't even as close as the score dictates. They body bagged your ass, and they left you out on the curb to rot and die. You're not good enough. Brad Holmes did a piss-poor job putting this team together, and then you went out and you wasted an assload of money on a wide receiver who is a few steps away from being Antonio Brown. I'm done. I'm over. Pissed.
Yeah, it's tough. But now, silver linings. You got the next 3 games at home. Can they get right with matchups against the Giants, Packers on Thanksgiving, and then the Cowboys?
I mean, it's the Giants. So if you can't win this game, we've got real issues to talk about when we come back next week. If they can't beat the Giants, lots and lots of issues. I think what's going to tell you a lot is how they respond on Thanksgiving, because they're going to have to play the Packers at home on Thanksgiving. And here's the deal. They don't usually win on Thanksgiving. So you got that working in your favor. On top of that, the Packers bodied you up and down week 1. And I don't think you're that much better than you were in week 1. Usually we talk at this point, we're like, oh, they're a much better team than they were when they first started the season. I don't think you necessarily are. So I think Thanksgiving is going to tell you a lot. I think when we get to Turkey Day, you're going to know what this team is really made of. Because I think this week, bit of a cakewalk. There's no reason you should lose to the Giants. They've got Jameis Winston and his crab leg, finger-licking good fingertips holding a football. You should be able to turn them over multiple times because that defense is stout and that defense is strong. Offensively, good luck, man. They got a pretty mean defensive front, and your offensive line is dog shit right now. So good luck with that. I don't know why we kind of switched from what really worked well in the Washington game, doing the quick 3-step drops, getting the ball out, possibly having an extra guy in to protect and block, really trying to do a couple things with the bubble screen and really working quickly to get the ball out of the hands of the quarterback so that offensive line doesn't look like they're stuck with cement feet. So good luck as far as your offense goes. I think the defense gets a massive turnover and probably returns one to the house, and that's going to be the difference in the game. I think they beat the Giants, but I think this game is much closer than it really should be. Again, Turkey Day will tell you everything you know about this team. Do they beat the Giants? You think they beat the Giants, or is this one of those things where we're going to be clutching pearls in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, no, I think they win. I think they win. Yeah, I'm curious to see if they still play Jackson Dart, but I do want to see. I just don't want to see
cleared. Like this guy's like a walking concussion at this point. Is he going to be cleared?
Yeah, I don't want to see Kayvon Thibodeau. Their defensive line is pretty good, so I don't want to see the same issues pop up again. So another test for the Lions' offensive line. I think they'll pass. It might be closer than what people think, but I expect that the outrage. And guess what? Because the Lions don't ever lose back-to-back games, so we got to put that to the test moving forward. But I think things are good. The game after that might be one of those games that really hurt you because the Cowboys, they got now reason to play and they got weapons, But that one could be really
Williams looks real good wearing that stupid star in his helmet.
Right. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, there's issues at Allen Park, issues with the Detroit Lions. And I think that when you have a litmus test, when you have a key game, let's just see how it shakes out. And I think moving forward, the narratives are going to be this is a defensive team that's going to get some more weapons back. And you just got to hope the offense can figure it out and weather the storm and win a different way. maybe that's been recognized. We'll see moving forward if Dan Campbell acts accordingly with how this football team is, because that defense can play. That defense can ball, and maybe they get healthy at the right time, and you just got to weather a storm. Let's just hope let's just hope the Lions don't lose a Super Bowl like 13-3. That would be devastatingly unfortunate that you have so many resources on offense, but you can't put it together because of mistakes made trying to build and rebuild an offensive line. But speaking of a team that's not struggling, not having issues with their rebuild, because the Pistons are just on a win streak, and continuing from our talk last time, they're having an opportunity now to make up for the fact that Jaden Ivey might not be a big part of this team. There's role players coming in that are making a name for themselves. This Pistons team is great to watch. They were able to get a victory without Cade Cunningham. A winning streak? What? Man, does that wash away the taste of that 28-game losing streak 2 years ago? Thank goodness, man. This Pistons team is respectable. They're crashing the boards. They're playing a great brand of football. They're playing a great brand of basketball, and it's a team that, when you really look at it, taking advantage of the Pacers because of the fact that they've been dealing with an injury. The Celtics, the East is wide open, and I think there's a chance for Trajan to really look at this team and solidify it going into the postseason. I'm really excited about what kind of basketball they're playing and how fun this group can be when their second stringers are balling out. That's amazing. That means that there's a system in place that allows the guys to have success. How fun it's been to watch this last couple of weeks. And my goodness, a winning streak at the time of recording. My goodness, what a great opportunity it is to watch the Pistons on a nightly basis.
They've been fantastic, man. Like, at this moment in time, they're the one reprieve you get in Detroit sports when you come off a frustrating game like the Detroit Lions had. When you watch the Red Wings kind of muddle around and hang out and play 500 hockey. And then you've got the Detroit Tigers, who a lot of reports about what they're doing with Tarek Skubal, and it sounds like they're not even close to being able to work out a contract. So he's probably gone, and who knows if it sets the rebuild back. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with the Tigers? When you watch the Pistons, this is a team that seems to have struck gold, gotten it right in every way. This is a team that basically didn't play 4 starters and still was able to go on the road and get a win. Like, that's nuts. And then you look at the team, they're down a bunch of guys. They're banged up right now. And you've got role players playing big roles and putting in big minutes and really helping take this team to the next level. And look, they're coming off, while we're recording, they're coming off a 10-game win streak. I believe they're playing Atlanta the night that we're recording this. So by the time this drops, what will probably happen is the DocNJock curse, and they will have made it to 10 games. They won't be able to get to the 11th because, we're talking well about them. It's how it always works out. It's undefeated. The DocNJock curse is undefeated. But all that being said, this team's amazing right now. To go on and rip off 10 games in a row and to play the way that they've been playing, and it's one of those things where they're just doing the intangibles. It's chasing down loose balls. It's playing strong on the defensive side of the floor. It's taking advantage of the opportunities that you have when you're on offense. And this isn't a team that's jacking up a ton of threes. This is a team that is really working the ball inside, little inside out, really trying to feed a guy like Jalen Duren and letting him take over parts of the game. And then once Cade gets comfortable, he's able to sit there and put daggers in. So it's been fun to watch them. And like I said, they are the reprieve for Detroit sports right now. And at this moment in time, they legit look like they're the ones who are able to possibly bring us a parade. So fingers crossed. They keep this up and look, like I said, hopefully the DocNJock curse is defeated tonight.
Hope so, man. Yeah, it's been good. Cade Cunningham has been leading the team. You realize that they're not reliant so heavily on the three that they're crashing the boards. They're crashing the boards, and a decision in the past with this organization has come back to haunt them. What's been great, cuz, is they made a decision not to extend Jalen Duren. He's come out like, oh, really? And has just been balling like a monster. And that's how you're supposed to do it. That's how good teams handle contracts, which is go out there and prove it. We didn't give you the extension, so show us something. And now he made himself some dollar bills, and they're going out there and they're handling their business. They're fun to watch. They're competitive, and they're going to do some things that are really, really fun to watch in regards to, yeah, look, you're going to have scheduling losses. Back-to-back games are tough, but let's just really, really credit JB Bickerstaff for at least an identity. Hell, steal it. It's fine. Steal it from the Lions. And then we have to credit where credit's due. This Danis Jenkins dude's become a star like overnight. Who the hell's Danis Jenkins? He just showed up and was like, my job, it's to Jaden Ivey who? I'm going to be the running mate. Cade and Danis. Danis and Cade. Let's keep following this guy. This guy's story is pretty interesting. And let's see if he can continue the hot streak because he just out of the blue become Detroit's next superstar. It's like, all right, Cade and Danis, let's go. The Cade and Danis program. Let's watch it and pay attention to it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to watch what's going on, and let's see what happens moving forward. And the Red Wings kind of up and down, and they had a nice win followed by a disappointing loss. They're kind of up and down the last couple of weeks, which is unfortunate. You look at their play and you say, all right, a little better improvements, but I want to see continued growth with their special teams and continued a little bit more emphasis on defense and the things that they've talked about that they need to improve, which is kind of some things that they can really shore up with goaltending in their defense and consistency of execution. So listen, man, the East is tough. The Rangers, the schedule never lightens up for that unit, and they got tough times. So we'll see if they can take advantage. They're around 500 right now, so we'll see moving forward if they're able to put something together. Still got a lot of time. We're in November, so still some things to evaluate. We'll look a little bit more maybe next week, but listen, get right game against the Giants. Let's hope. And next week probably we'll talk a little bit more about Michigan and Michigan State as they continue their trek towards the end of the season. Michigan obviously has their goals in front of them, and Michigan State has nothing left to talk about. I didn't even bother to get a credential to go see them at LCA. It's just
I was going to ask
too much.
I was going to ask you going to Ford Field for the football game
no,
or what?
I'm not. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch a 9-3 game, and I don't want to see anything about it. I'm just waiting for the announcement that he's going to get fired, and let's get next. But unfortunately, the buzz right now, we can't even get good buzz because the buzz is Pat Fitzgerald. I'm like, could you put my nuts up my scrotum even further than that? I mean, good Lord. I mean, I might even talk about it. Here's the thing. Like, Michigan State hired their next head coach, and I can't find my scrotum anymore. So.
Okay, so here's the deal. Pat Fitzgerald did a really nice job at Northwestern, right? Like, I know that he was fired with a lot of question marks and a lot of stuff around, but he did a really nice job at Northwestern. If Michigan State can get NIL figured out and get some of their donors and all that stuff taken care of, he could be a nice fit. Now, that being said, he's not a big sexy name. He's not a flashy name. He's none of those things. What do you make of James Franklin going to Virginia Tech? Like, is that a guy who you guys would have liked? I mean, he's won big games. He's gotten to a playoff. I don't think you would have wanted him. So, like, when it comes down to it, are you going to like the FCS to get a guy, or are you trying to poach somebody? Because I don't know if Michigan State has it in them to go ahead and try to poach somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's one of those things where our status, we think higher of ourselves than what others would. The only thing that's going to lure anybody to Michigan State is a bunch of dollars. That's it. You pay, you get. Michigan State this is it. This is the definition of rock bottom. You bent over to take the punishment so that you could prove Mel Tucker was a fraud. So you took the punishment. You embarrassed your organization so that you could win $80 million from Mel Tucker and further besmirch him because of.
I kind of feel like that was a smart move.
Yeah, it was.
You could put that $80 million towards, I don't know, maybe getting a football coach and paying your players.
Right, it's the right move, but optics wise, you got a program that's in the toilet, and you're gonna have a mass exodus. You're gonna have to rebuild. So Jonathan Smith needed to be a bridge head coach, and he's far from it. He actually sunk the program further because he's not the right fit. This is a MAC coach stepping up to the big time, and he brought MAC tendencies to his organization. When you whiff on a quarterback that you brought here and paid, that's wrong. We need an energetic coach. We need a Robert Saleh. We need somebody that has a love and adoration for Michigan State. And some people
the guy that would make you happy? Is it Saleh? You talk about Saleh a lot. You act like he's the second coming of sliced bread. Is Salah the guy? Would you just basically take your pants off and go streaking through the Red Cedar River?
I would oil up and
Salah
lather
was the
me, you,
guy.
and hummus and be very, very happy. It'd be the hummus party up in here. Listen, because I do think that his skills translate. Listen,
Hummus and hookah.
Hookah and hummus. In my opinion, Rah doesn't really work all that great in the pros. I mean, the guy will look at you and be like, yeah, bro, I just made $484,000 this week. Do I really need your, let's go get him in college? I think that plays perfectly. That guy walks in your house and you're like, yeah, I'm going to listen to him. I think I could run through a wall for him. And I think he would say some things and make it important, the rivalry to Michigan. He started there. So I think that if there's a little bit of a love reunion, you get Dayball come back to where he started as a GA. Dayball runs your offense, runs your quarterback development. You get a GM. That can come in, or you go this route if you want to really take it slow. I think everybody loves Bulla. He's made a name for himself. He doesn't have the experience coaching, so I think that it would be great to get a Michigan State guy in there to bring maybe a guy back to develop him as a defensive coordinator. But you just need listen, I know we've always joked about it here on the podcast, but you need a Michigan State man. Michigan has just done that where they've always looked to guys that love the program and understand what it's about. I think Michigan State should not just flash cash at somebody that's just going to come here for the cash. Flash the cash to somebody that loves the program, will understand what it means to bleed green and how hurt the program really is. That you gave us a taste of success, but you brought it to a guy that teased it and couldn't put his junk in his pants. So that's the worst kind of thing where
he was teasing something. He was teasing something. Little Mel.
So yeah, poor Mel.
Tuck
was coming all right. But it wasn't on the football field. And with that, I want to let everybody know that you can follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Come tell us your thoughts about us, whether you like us or you don't like us. We'll tell you what we think, and you can lob bombs at us. It's okay. Adam and I are firmly comfortable in our role with the Detroit Sports Podcast and what we've done in the Detroit sports market. Come talk, come engage, come drop bombs on us. It's all good. It's all fun and games. It's a tough time with the Lions, but hopefully they can rebound with the thumping of a really another bad football team, and hopefully the Pistons can continue to give the fan base some hope that winning and consistently winning can be fun and encouraging. I look forward to next week when we break it all down on the next episode of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.